Managing resistant weeds has been a tough challenge for many farmers, and one of the products that you may have turned to on your farm is Liberty. Liberty now is getting used on more acres than it ever has been for a number of reasons, and one of them being there's some more trait packages out for soybeans and corn that allow the use of Liberty. So we're going to talk today about how to get the most out of your Liberty applications.
All right, let me start with this. At the moment, there are no weeds in the world that are declared resistant to Liberty. So that's super exciting. If you've been worried about resistant weeds, here's your answer. Now, unfortunately, Liberty is not perfect on all weed species. Yes, it is somewhat similar to Roundup in that it's going to kill most everything green, but it's not perfect on everything. Anyway, with this Liberty, the big thing when we start talking about how do you get the most out of it, just understand that it is much more of a contact killer than what Roundup is. With Roundup, you get a little bit on the plant and it will move or translocate to the growing point or growing points, and it will usually control the weed if it's a susceptible weed. With Liberty, you really need to coat that plant. So we talk about different spray nozzles, higher water volumes, more spray pressure, just anything we can do to get better coverage. That usually means better control with Liberty.
Well, when we're talking about Liberty, it is such a nice product because it does have activity on grasses and broadleaves, but it's not perfect. In any Liberty herbicide system, we really want to start off with good pre-emerged soil residual herbicides to take out the lion's share of the weeds. That way, when we're coming back with Liberty, we don't have really thick patches that it's difficult to get coverage in. And as Brian mentioned, it's different than Roundup, where with Roundup it seems like we just need a few concentrated drops to land on the weed and we can kill it. With Liberty, we need to coat the weed. So if you've got a thick patch and you've got smaller weeds coming up underneath the bigger ones, it's tough to get down to all of them. So make sure you're wiping out most of the weeds with your pre-emerge program.
The other reason why we talk so much about use a good pre is Liberty has no residual. Just like with Roundup, if you spray it, literally weeds could come up tomorrow and they are not going to die. So when you've got a product that has no residual, it's important to get something else into the program that has good residual to hopefully give you decent control season long.
All right, one weed in particular, Brian, I wanted to focus on today is volunteer corn. In soybean programs that are using Liberty, we've got a lot of guys that say, well, hey, I want to just use Liberty because it should kill that volunteer corn. It was a Roundup Ready corn hybrid. But do some research before you start thinking that because, well, there's a couple things going on here. Number one, the Liberty trait is in a lot of different hybrids. You may not even realize that, oh, I planted a stack trait product and it was also tolerant to Liberty. I didn't know that. I could have even sprayed Liberty on the corn. Now you've got volunteer corn that obviously Liberty isn't going to kill. The other thing is there's cross-pollination in corn. Corn pollen's flying everywhere in your county that you farm in. So if there's other cornfields out there, chances are some of them were Liberty tolerant and some of that pollen is going to cross with your corn. So there'll be a little bit of your volunteer corn that you're not going to get under control. So for those reasons, we strongly recommend mix a volunteer corn herbicide in with one of your Liberty applications to wipe that out.
Darren mentioned a little earlier, there are a lot of trait packages now that do include Liberty. So let's say it's Smart Stacks in corn or Enlist in soybeans. When you have the option to spray Liberty, it's pretty nice. Not that you always have to, but at least that is always out there. And the reason why it's nice to have that option is because we just don't have to worry about the spray drift with Liberty like we do even with glyphosate, but especially like with 2,4-D or dicamba. You know, those things really start to concern me. Whereas Liberty, since it is such a contact killer, even if a tiny bit does move off target, it's usually just some cosmetic damage, doesn't typically kill weeds because you didn't obviously get that thorough coating that you need. So anyway, with Liberty, we like it in a lot of situations where, let's say, dicamba doesn't necessarily fit.
One last thing that I would say, Brian, is just when we're spraying Liberty, so often I talk to growers that say, well, that's all I've got in the tank, or I've got some ammonium sulfate or something with it. That may be it, just one mode of action. Here's where I get concerned. We've been spraying a lot of one mode of action products, and almost every one of them has resistant weeds. Now, we don't have any weeds that are resistant to Liberty yet, but let's try and use it a little bit different. If we can get another effective mode of action in there as a tank mix partner, depending on what your crop is and what your crop rotation is, you can help preserve the life of Liberty that much longer.
For example, in Enlist, when you can spray Roundup, Liberty, and the new 2,4-D or Enlist 1, That's exciting. So could you put a few ounces of Enlist together with Liberty? Or could you put a few ounces of Liberty together with the 2,4-D? I'm interested to try some combinations on our farm and in our research this year to see what we find out. But all I know is when Liberty's hot, 2,4-D's hot, I put the two together, I really should have some great weed control.
Well, we are really excited about Liberty herbicide, and we're glad that there are more acres of our crops that can be sprayed safely by Liberty in the coming years, including this year. So when you're using Liberty, just make sure that you think about it as a contact herbicide. Use plenty of water, use the right spray tips that'll be completely different from the tips you're using for dicamba or 2,4-D type applications, because you're going to need a smaller droplet to get things done. And then as you're covering those acres, do it timely and use a pre-emerge herbicide just as you would with any other product.
Oh, and one last thing, we usually talk about 3 pounds of ammonium sulfate per acre with Liberty. That usually really helps the performance.
Well, there's a lot of weeds that I would recommend Liberty for. Is our Weed of the Week one of them? You'll find out coming up next.